My ex-wife's new husband publicly insulted my union in front of my daughter, then weeks later asked me to fix his botched electrical job for free. When I charged him my standard rate, he threatened to call the licensing board on me. Here's how that worked out for him. Before we begin, tell us in the comments from which city are you watching. And at the end, do not forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. The November rain had just started when Mike Chen pulled into the parking lot of Roosevelt Middle School. 16 years as a union electrician, and he still got to every one of his kids' games early. Old habit from the marriage, back when showing up on time mattered to someone other than the kids. He was a member of Local 401, had his journeyman's license at 23, and now at 39, he'd seen enough job sites to know the difference between someone who knew their trade and someone who just talked a good game. The divorce from Sarah had been finalized last March. Ruff didn't begin to cover it. Lawyers, mediation sessions, arguments about custody schedules and holiday splits. But they had finally landed on shared custody of their 3 kids, Emma, 14, Jake, 11, and Sophie, 8. Things had settled into a routine, professional co-parenting, polite text messages about pickup times and school events. Then, Sarah got remarried in August, Brad Morrison. She'd been dating him for 6 months before they tied the knot, which seemed fast to Mike, but hey, not his business anymore. Brad was also in the trades, sort of. He ran a one-man operation doing small IT work and data network installations, low-voltage stuff. Non-union. Mike had met Brad exactly twice before the volleyball game incident. Once at Emma's birthday party in September, where Brad had spent most of the time on his phone, and once during a custody exchange where Brad had stayed in the car. Mike didn't have strong feelings about the guy either way. Sarah seemed happy. The kids said he was fine. That was enough, or it was until 3 weeks ago. Emma had a volleyball tournament at Roosevelt. Big one, regional qualifiers. Sarah and Brad showed up, which was good. The kids liked when everyone came to their games, even if it meant their mom and dad had to make small talk in the bleachers. Mike had come straight from a job site, still wearing his work shirt, navy blue with the Local 401 logo embroidered on the chest, and Mike Chen, journeyman electrician, stitched on the front. He grabbed a spot in the bleachers, waved to Emma when she looked over, and settled in to watch. Brad arrived 10 minutes later with Sarah. They sat a few rows away, which was the usual arrangement. Mike nodded at them. Sarah smiled. Brad gave a half wave. Everything was fine, until halftime. Mike was standing near the concession stand getting a coffee when he heard Brad's voice behind him. Loud, the kind of loud people use when they want to be heard. That's the problem with these big unions, you know? They protect lazy workers and drive up costs for everyone else. Mike turned slightly. Brad was talking to another parent, some guy Mike didn't recognize. Both had their backs partially to Mike. I mean, real tradesmen don't need a union, Brad continued. If you're good at what you do, you negotiate your own rates. You don't need some organization taking dues and telling you when you can work. The other parent made some non-committal sound. Brad was just getting warmed up. I run my own business, no union, no overhead, no bureaucracy. Just me and my skills. That's how trade work should be. Direct relationship between the tradesman and the client. None of this union red tape. Mike stood there, coffee in hand, his union logo clearly visible on his chest. Brad knew he was there. Had to know. They'd made eye contact when he walked up. This wasn't accidental. This was a statement. Mike took a breath. He had options here. He could turn around and say something. He could let Brad know exactly how union protections had helped him afford the house he'd bought after the divorce. how his benefits covered Emma's orthodontist appointments, how his pension would make sure he didn't have to work until he died. But Emma was about to start the second set. Sophie was eating nachos with Sarah. This wasn't the time. So Mike walked back to his seat, sipped his coffee, and watched his daughter play volleyball. But he didn't forget. Later that night, after he dropped the kids back at Sarah's place, Mike sat in his truck for a moment before driving home. The thing was, Mike knew exactly what Brad did for work. Low-voltage installations, data cabling, network drops, small commercial stuff mostly. And here's what Brad apparently didn't know. Mike's electrical license covered all of that. Every single thing Brad did, Mike was certified and insured to do. The commercial license Mike held allowed him to do everything from 120-volt circuits to fiber optic installations. Mike also knew, because Emma had mentioned it once, offhand, that Brad's business wasn't exactly thriving. He worked alone, which meant every hour he wasn't on a job was an hour he wasn't getting paid. No benefits, no backup, no safety net. Brad barely broke even most months, according to Emma's casual mention of a conversation she'd overheard between Sarah and Brad about cash flow. So a guy who was struggling to keep his business afloat had just publicly trashed unions and the people in them. Interesting choice. 3 weeks later, Mike's phone rang at 7:30 on a Tuesday morning. He was already up getting ready for a commercial installation across town. Big job. Rewiring an office building's conference room. 3-day project. Sarah's name on the caller ID. "Hey," Mike said, balancing the phone between his ear and shoulder while he laced his work boots. "Everything okay with the kids?" "Oh yeah, they're fine," Sarah said quickly. "Actually, I'm calling about something else. Do you have a second?" "Sure. What's up?" "So Brad's working on this job out in Riverside. Small office building. He's doing their network installation. And there's this electrical panel that needs some work. The building owner wants it checked out before Brad can finish his part." Mike paused. "Okay. I was wondering if you could just swing by and take a look at it. It's probably really quick, just need someone licensed to sign off on it. Brad said it's not a big deal, just wants to make sure everything's up to code before he finishes." Mike set his boot down. "Sarah, you're asking me to go to Brad's job site and do electrical work?" "Well, yeah, you'd only need your tools for a few minutes. It's not like a huge project or anything, just a quick favor." "A favor?" "Right. And technically you'd be working for Brad since it's his contract with the building owner, but it's really more like helping him out so he can finish the job." Mike felt something cold settle in his chest. "Let me make sure I understand. Brad needs a licensed electrician to do work on his job site, and you want me to do it for free?" It's family," Sarah said, and Mike could hear the slight defensiveness creeping into her voice. "It's not like he's asking a stranger, and it would really help him out. This job is important for his business. Sarah, I charge everyone the same rate for my work. You know that." "Oh, come on, Mike, it's like 20 minutes of your time." "It doesn't matter if it's 20 minutes or 20 hours. I have union rules I have to follow. I can't just do side jobs under the table. If Brad needs electrical work done, it has to be done through my shop, properly invoiced, properly insured." Silence on the other end. Then, "You're really going to force this issue? With my husband?" Mike's jaw tightened. "Brad can call my shop and book the work like any other customer. We'll give him the same rate we give everyone. Fair rate for professional work." "This is ridiculous," Sarah snapped. "He just needs someone to look at a panel. You're being petty." "I'm being professional. There's a difference. You're creating tension between us for no reason. Sarah, Brad stood at our daughter's volleyball game and publicly trashed unions, my union, while I was standing there wearing my union shirt. He made it very clear what he thinks of people like me. And now he wants me to work for him for free? That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. Respect goes both ways. If Brad needs an electrician, he can hire an electrician, same as everyone else. You know what I think? Sarah's voice had gone cold now. I think you're just making a stink because Brad lives with the kids now. You're jealous and you're using this as an excuse to be difficult. Mike closed his eyes, took a breath. I'm not doing free electrical work for someone who disrespects what I do for a living. That's not petty. That's having professional standards. Brad can call my shop if he wants to hire me. Otherwise, he can find another electrician. Fine, Sarah said sharply, but don't pretend this is about professionalism. You're just being vindictive. She hung up. Mike stood there in his kitchen, phone in hand, and wondered when exactly his life had become a country song. 2 days later, Mike was on lunch break at the office building job when his phone rang again. Unknown number. Mike Chen. Mr. Chen, this is Brad Morrison. The voice was clipped, professional. The voice of someone who'd rehearsed this conversation. Mike set down his sandwich. Brad. I understand Sarah spoke to you about the panel situation at my job site. She did. And I understand you declined to help. I explained the situation to Sarah. If you need electrical work done, you can call my shop and book it through proper channels. We'll invoice you just like any other customer. See, here's the thing, Mike. Brad's tone shifted slightly, taking on an edge. I've been talking to some people, and I'm not sure what you're doing is exactly legal. Mike's hand tightened on his phone. Excuse me? Refusing to work on a job site for personal reasons, using your union membership as an excuse to discriminate against a non-union contractor. I've been told that might violate state labor laws. Brad, I'm not refusing to work for you. I'm telling you that if you want to hire me, you hire me through my company, at my standard rate, with proper invoicing and insurance, same as any other customer. Right, but your standard rate is twice what any non-union electrician would charge. Seems like you're using your union status to price gouge. Mike laughed. Couldn't help it. Brad, my rate is my rate. You don't have to hire me. There are plenty of other licensed electricians in the city. Maybe, but none of them are Emma's father. I thought family meant something to you. Family means I show up to my kids' games and pay my child support on time. It doesn't mean I work for free. Well, maybe you should think about how this looks to the kids. Their mom's husband asks their dad for a simple favor, and dad says no because of some union rule. What message does that send? Mike felt heat rising in his chest. The message it sends is that people should respect each other's professions and pay fairly for skilled work. That's a pretty good message, actually. I'll tell you what message it really sends, Brad said. It sends the message that you're still bitter about the divorce and you're taking it out on me. Is that what you think? I think you've got an ego problem and union membership to hide behind. And I'll be honest with you, Mike. I'm considering filing a complaint with the state licensing board. Refusal to perform work based on personal grudges might be grounds for review. Mike went very still. You're threatening to report me to the licensing board because I won't work for free? I'm saying that your behavior seems unprofessional. And if you're going to hide behind union rules while discriminating against independent contractors, maybe someone should look into whether you're actually following the professional standards your license requires. Brad, here's some free advice. Don't threaten electricians with licensing complaints when you need electrical work done. Tends to backfire. Is that a threat? No, it's a fact. You want my help? Call my shop, pay my rate. Otherwise, find another electrician. And Brad? What? Next time you want to talk about real tradesmen, make sure you're not about to ask one of those union guys to bail you out of a job you can't finish. Mike hung up. He sat there for a moment, staring at his half-eaten sandwich. Then he called his shop steward. Jerry Martinez had been shop steward for Local 401 for 12 years. He'd heard it all: contractor disputes, wage theft, safety violations, licensing issues. But when Mike called him about Brad Morrison's threat, Jerry got very interested very quickly. "Let me get this straight," Jerry said. "Non-union guy trashes unions publicly, then asks you to do unpermitted work on his job site for free. You refuse. Now he's threatening a licensing board complaint?" "That's the size of it," Mike confirmed. "What's the address of this job site?" Mike gave him the address in Riverside. "Hang on." Jerry put Mike on hold. 3 minutes later, he came back. "Okay, so I made some calls. That building owner, we've done work for him before. Good guy, pays on time. And here's the interesting part. The permit for that job doesn't list any electrical work." Meaning if Brad's having electrical work done without a permit, that's a code violation. And if he's asking you to do unpermitted work, he's asking you to risk your license. Mike felt something click into place. He was trying to get me to do under-the-table work that would violate code. Bingo. And then threatening you with the licensing board when you refused? That's attempted coercion of a licensed professional. State takes that seriously. So what do we do? Leave it with me. I'm going to make a few more calls. The next morning, Mike got a text from Jerry. "Building inspector just happened to do a random check of that Riverside site. Funny how that works out." Mike smiled. 3 days later, Sarah called. Her voice was tight. "Did you know Brad's job got shut down?" "I heard something about a permit issue," Mike said mildly. "The building inspector showed up and red-tagged the whole thing. Brad's client is furious. He might lose the contract." "Sorry to hear that." "Mike, did I what? Call in a legitimate code compliance check on a job site where unlicensed electrical work was being planned? Sarah, I'm a union electrician. We take code violations seriously. Safety matters." Silence. "Brad said you're trying to sabotage his business." "Brad threatened to file a false complaint with my licensing board because I wouldn't work for free. I didn't sabotage anything. I just made sure the work was being done legally. That's literally my professional obligation." More silence. Then, "His client is threatening to sue him." "Then Brad should have pulled proper permits and hired a licensed electrician from the start. This isn't personal, Sarah. This is what happens when you cut corners. You could fix this. You could go do the work properly and sign off on it. I absolutely could, for my standard rate through my shop, with proper permits and invoicing." "Mike." "Sarah, Brad called me vindictive. He threatened my license. He tried to get me to do illegal, unpermitted work. And through all of this, he still hasn't apologized for disrespecting my profession and my union at Emma's game. So no, I'm not fixing this for free." He heard her take a shaky breath. "What do you want?" "I want Brad to call my shop, book the work properly, and pay the invoice, same as any other customer. That's all I've ever wanted." The call came 2 days later, not from Brad, but from Brad's client, the building owner in Riverside. "Mr. Chen, my name is Robert Wu. I own the building on Riverside where Brad Morrison was doing network installation work." "Yes, sir." "I understand there's been some conflict between you and Mr. Morrison." "You could say that." "Well, I've terminated his contract. The permit violations and unlicensed electrical work attempts were deal breakers. However, I still need the electrical work completed properly. I've spoken with several people, and your name keeps coming up. I'd like to hire your company to complete the panel work and any other electrical needs for the building." Mike smiled. "I'd be happy to provide a quote." "That's not necessary. Your reputation speaks for itself. Just send me your standard contract and let me know when you can start. I can have someone there Monday." "Perfect. And Mr. Chen, For what it's worth, I'm glad you didn't compromise your professional standards. We need more tradespeople who take their work seriously. That weekend was Mike's custody weekend. Emma, Jake, and Sophie piled into his truck Friday after school, chattering about their week. Mom's been fighting with Brad a lot, Emma said as they pulled out of Sarah's driveway. Yeah? Mike kept his voice neutral. He lost some big job. He's really stressed. That's tough. Is it true you got him in trouble? Emma asked. She wasn't accusatory, just curious. Mike glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Brad asked me to do some work that wasn't safe or legal. I said no. Then he got mad and tried to get me in trouble. So I made sure the work was being done the right way. That's all. He said you were being petty. Emma, you know what I do for a living. You're an electrician. Right. And part of being a professional electrician means following the rules, the electrical code, the permit requirements, all of it. Those rules exist to keep people safe. When someone asks me to break those rules and then gets mad when I won't, that's not me being petty. That's me doing my job right. Emma thought about this. Brad says unions are bad. Brad's allowed to think that, but unions are the reason I get good benefits that help pay for things like your braces. They're the reason I can afford to live close to your school so you don't have to travel far during custody weeks. They're the reason I'll have a pension when I retire. So when Brad says unions are bad, he's really saying that all those things don't matter. And I disagree. So you're not mad at him? Mike considered this. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed that he doesn't respect what I do. But I don't need him to respect it. I just need him to stay in his lane when it comes to my work. Mom says you're making things hard. I know, but sometimes doing the right thing is hard. That's part of being professional. Jake piped up from the back seat. Can we get pizza? And just like that, the conversation moved on. Kids were good like that. The following Tuesday, Mike was at the Riverside building, supervising the panel installation. Clean, permitted work, everything by the book. His phone buzzed. Sarah. Brad wants to apologize. Mike straightened. Okay. He said some things he shouldn't have said. About unions, about you. He was stressed about money and took it out on you. I appreciate that. And he's sorry about the licensing board threat. That was out of line. It was. Mike, he's having a really hard time right now. Losing that contract hurt him financially. Sarah, I'm sorry Brad's struggling, genuinely. But he created this situation. He disrespected my work, asked me to do illegal work for free, then threatened me when I said no. I didn't make those choices. He did. I know. I wish you could have helped him. I did help him, actually. I helped him learn that if you're going to run a business, you need to follow the rules, pull permits, hire licensed professionals, treat people with respect. Those are expensive lessons, but they're important ones. Silence on the line. Then, the kid said you explained everything to Emma. I did. She told me you said unions help pay for her braces. They do. I never thought about it that way. Most people don't. They just hear union dues and think it's money down the drain. They don't see the benefits, the training, the safety standards, the pensions. Brad sees union membership as a weakness. I see it as a strength. He's not a bad guy, Mike. I never said he was. But he made some bad choices, and choices have consequences. Another pause. Will you ever work with him? If he calls my shop, books properly, and pays my rate, absolutely. I don't hold grudges, but I also don't work for free, and I don't compromise my professional standards. Not for family, not for anyone. That's fair, Sarah said quietly. That's actually really fair. 2 months later, Mike got a call from an unknown number. Mike Chen Electrical. Mr. Chen, this is Brad Morrison. Mike set down his coffee. Brad, I wanted to call and I wanted to apologize properly, not through Sarah. Okay? What I said at Emma's game was disrespectful. You're right, I was stressed about money, and I took it out on unions because it made me feel better about not having those protections myself. That wasn't fair to you. I appreciate you saying that, and the licensing board threat was way over the line. I was angry, and I wanted to hurt you, and that was wrong. You were just doing your job. Thanks, Brad. Look, I know we're not friends, but we're both going to be in these kids' lives for a long time. I don't want every school event to be awkward. Neither do I. So I'm saying sorry, and if I ever need electrical work in the future, and I probably will, I'll call your shop and pay your rate. No favors, no shortcuts, just professional work. Mike smiled. I'd appreciate that. One more thing, Brad said. I've been thinking about what you said about union benefits, about how they help pay for Emma's braces and let you live close to school. I never thought about it that way. Most people don't. Well, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm realizing that maybe real tradesmen are the ones who make sure they're protected and paid fairly. Not the ones who barely scrape by and cut corners. That's a good realization to have. Yeah, expensive one though, Mike laughed. The best lessons usually are. That Friday, Mike picked up the kids for his weekend. Emma was in a good mood. Her volleyball team had made regionals. We have another tournament next month, she said. Will you come? Of course. Brad's coming too. Is that okay? Emma, Brad is married to your mom. He's part of your family. Of course it's okay. He said he's sorry for what he said about unions. He told me. That took courage. Are you guys friends now? Mike thought about it. We're friendly. That's different from friends, but it's enough. Good, Emma said, because I like it when everyone gets along. Me too, kiddo. 3 months after the whole situation started, Mike was working on a residential job when Jerry Martinez called. Hey, you're not going to believe this. What? Remember Brad Morrison, your ex-wife's husband? Yeah? He just applied for union membership. Mike nearly dropped his drill. You're kidding. Dead serious. Came into the hall last week. Said he'd been thinking about benefits and protections and wanted to learn more about joining Local 401. Mike laughed, long and hard. Did you accept him? He's got to go through the application process like everyone else, but if he's serious, if he shows he understands what unions are actually about, yeah, we'll take him. Funny how things work out sometimes. Yeah, Mike said, smiling. Funny how they do. And that's the story of how Mike Chen taught his ex-wife's husband about the value of professionalism, boundaries, and unions, all by simply refusing to work for free. Because real tradesmen don't just know their craft, they know their worth. What we learn from this story is that professionalism isn't petty. Respect is a two-way street, and standing your ground when someone disrespects your work and then asks for free labor isn't about being vindictive. It's about knowing your worth and teaching others how to treat you. Before you go, tell us in the comments, from which city are you watching? And don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Was Mike right to stand his ground, or should he have been more flexible? Drop your rating below. Thanks for watching.